No one comes off well. The only person who I think will surprise people that you focused on is where I actually want to begin briefly. I don't want to dwell on it too much. But I'm obsessed with Eric Garcetti. We went to the same high school.
I didn't know that.
Definitely wants to be president. He thinks he's going to be president. I think he's the worst mayor in America, even worse than Bill de Blasio. I was struck by a story I read this morning. I was a huge Kobe Bryant fan, and so it was very tough. Those of you who missed my opening hour Monday, I think it was very special because I got to reflect on it. I think those of you who don't like sports, I think you'll understand why I thought of him as a very important figure, because he was an example of not just someone who's super talented, but super hard worker. But he died in a helicopter crash. And why did he take a helicopter everywhere in Los Angeles? Because the traffic keeps getting worse. The greenest people on earth keep driving more cars and more polluting in Los Angeles. In the meantime, what is the mayor focused on? We have the worst airport in the world in Los Angeles. Literally, voters rated it number one. And I've been to LaGuardia, so that's pretty bad if you're seeing that it's number one. And traffic keeps getting worse. Schools have always been unusable. Illegal immigration has ruined those, and it has been forever. Homelessness getting worse. New homeless encampment on VA property now. Last time I was there, my whole life hadn't been there, brand new. And he thinks he's going to be president. And this is a guy whose priorities are ass backwards, for lack of a better expression. So, and you researched into him, which I was surprised by and I was heartened by, because he's a guy to stop, because he's terrible at what he does. Give me a Garcetti story. Give me a highlight.
Well, Garcetti realizes as mayor, one of the big levers of power that he has is you've got all these developers that either want to renovate existing hotels or apartment buildings, or they want to build new ones. And they need to basically get his approval. It's very, very hard to get big projects approved. So he set up this mayor's fund, which that sounds great. Let's have a mayor's fund.
Mayor's fund, yeah.
But basically what it is another pocket into which large developers need to deposit money. They need to donate to his campaign, but they also need to put it in the other pocket, the mayor's fund, which he then doles out to people that endorse him, people that support his campaign. And what you find, I know this is shocking, the people that give him money get their projects approved.
Unbelievable. I'm stunned. No, it is. You paint a vivid picture. For those of you who read the book, you're going to need to read the book, get all the details. But it's basically a way for people to buy favors from him. You put some money in the mayor's fund and you go to the top of the line. It's a fast pass, like you're at Disneyland.
Yeah, no, that's right. And what ends up happening, I mean, we're not talking about just sort of skirting certain rules. I mean, some developers, will donate money to his fund. His fund takes in like $30 million, a year, some years, which is, huge amount of money, which he then doles out. But in some cases, you have developers that kick in a major donation, and the restriction or the regulation that gets removed is like a height restriction.
Yeah.
So you're in a neighborhood and it's been zoned to say, no building taller than say 12 stories. Well, suddenly somebody's putting up a 22-story building. You're like, what just happened? Well, what happened was the developer gave money to Eric Garcetti.
Right. So in the meantime, when he's not solving the actual problems in the city, like traffic and homelessness and at the horrible airport, he's got this mayor's fund going. He's also pretty hypocritical in the environment. It sounds like he talks a big game in the environment, and then if you cut a check to the mayor's fund, all of a sudden he cares less about the environmental sensitivity of your project.
Absolutely.
And then you see how the city is barely functional. Average of 373 days to make a hire. For a city position.
Exactly.
Unbelievable. 1/6 of employees are on workers' compensation. 1/3 in the police department, fire department are on workers' compensation.
Yeah.
I mean, that is... And then they will say we don't have enough money for the schools.
Right.
That's what they will announce.
Right. Exactly.
We're paying all these people not to work.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned the fire department. I mean, there's several cases involving, people with the fire department that are supposed to be doing inspections, safety inspections of projects, which ends up happening. They weren't actually doing them. But because the fire union endorsed him and supported him, and particularly certain leaders, he just basically brushes that stuff away. So it's a protection racket. It's kind of a Mafia-Type system.
You go in one detail where there is a clear case of corruption at the fire department, and he just sat on it. It was just, why did he do that? What is this story?
Yeah, I mean, basically the story is a guy that was making up inspections, and this is a senior guy in the
and getting paid with taxpayer money.
Exactly, getting paid well with taxpayer money, it turned out that this guy, had put in all these reports saying I inspected this property, I inspected that property. Well, some people in the fire department retraced the steps and said, no, you didn't go to any of these places, and there was a vice chief of the fire department who raised these issues. Well, somebody got fired. It wasn't the guy who was falsifying the stuff because he was in good with the union.
Yes.
It was the guy who actually reported it and uncovered the fact. He got removed from his position because he raised it. And Garcetti initially said, well, I didn't have anything to do with that, but it turned out later on that he actually did.
The book's already worth it. Profiles in Corruption.